If you watched part 1 of this tutorial, you should now be familiar with all the different types of cards you will encounter. Now it's time to start learning how to play the game. I've used a few terms already that I'm sure some of you have been curious about. Before I explain how to play the game, I would like to explain more fully the following terms: bow and unbow or straighten, keywords, traits, and abilities. To bow a card, turn it 90 degrees clockwise. This is a state most card game players should be familiar with, denoting a card is spent for the turn. Cards turned to the side are referred to as bowed. Straightening a card is turning it from a bowed state to its normal upright position. Cards in this state are referred to as unbowed cards. Many abilities in the game will ask you to bow a card as a cost, or may bow another player's card as an effect. Other abilities will straighten your cards. Typically, a bowed card may not use any abilities printed on it while bowed unless explicitly stated otherwise on the card. Keywords can be split into two groups: rulebook keywords and general keywords. Rulebook keywords are keywords that have rules attached to them that are explained in the L5R rulebook. There is about 18 rulebook keywords right now. General keywords are keywords that are referenced by other abilities but do not have any meaning by themselves. Some keywords are never referenced at all and are only included as flavor. In the example here, Spider Clan, Samurai, Conqueror, Experienced, and Unique are all rulebook keywords. Shadowlands, Commander, and Paragon are all general keywords. Dark Death would be considered a flavor keyword. Traits are listed right below keywords and do not have bold text so as not to be confused with abilities. Some traits will have a trigger designated with a colon at the end, like when this card enters play, or at the end of your turn. Other traits will be continuously applied and have no trigger. Unlike abilities, traits continue to work and apply to the game even if the card they are printed on is bowed. In the example here, all followers in Zhao's army will have +1 force, even if he is bowed. If he is destroyed, the trait will end as well. Each ability has a bold text called a designator, explaining when the ability can be used. Battle abilities can be used during the battle phase. Limited abilities can be used during your action phase. Open abilities can be used during any player's action phase. If an ability has more than one designator, it can be used at either time. Sometimes keywords are added in front of designators. Any ability printed on a card with keywords shares those keywords. So an ability printed on a ninja personality is a ninja ability. Sometimes, after the designator, the text will be split into another colon. All wording before the colon is called the cost of the ability. All text after the colon is called the effect. If there is no second colon, all text is the effect of the ability. Unless otherwise stated, abilities on cards can only be used once per turn. Unless otherwise stated, effects created by abilities last until the end of the turn. Abilities are also referred to as actions. The last type of ability is called a reaction. Reactions will always give a trigger or time frame in which they can be played, typically before or after another event occurs. Reactions can be taken from anywhere on the board on either player's turn and may be used at any time their trigger is met. Like other abilities, reactions may only be used once per turn unless otherwise stated. Actions are resolved in the order they are played in a series of 4 steps. There is a window of opportunity for all players to use reactions during each of the 4 steps to enhance or disrupt the outcome of the ability. Here are the 4 steps: announcement, targeting, paying costs, and resolution. In the announcement step, you simply tell your opponent what action you are planning on taking. If it is printed on a card in play, show the card it is printed on. If it is a card in your hand, show it. Players also confirm the action is actually legal in this step. Normally, actions on bowed cards cannot be used. Most abilities can only be used once per turn. Some abilities will ask you to target a specific card or pay a certain amount of gold. If there is some discrepancy along these lines that make it impossible for the player to use the ability, he cannot announce it. Entrenched Position is an example of a card that reacts to the announcement step. In the targeting step, all required targeting must be made. This includes picking performing personalities as well as targets of the effects. All abilities explain in the cost section of the action whether or not the ability is performed and what kind of personality may perform the action. If an action is granted to or printed on a personality, he is the performer of the action. Sometimes not all the targeting can be completed. If an ability says target 2 enemy units and the enemy only has 1 unit, then the action cannot be completed. Ryoshin's Guidance is an example of a card that can react to targeting. In this phase, any other actions besides targeting and the cost side of the ability are done. Some cards may say value or performing personality, or strategies may have a gold cost on the card. Some cards will have no cost at all, like limited, gain 1 honor. Very few cards have a reaction to paying a cost. Most of those that do are holdings, like luxurious silk. After all targeting is completed and all costs are paid, all effects of the action are completed. After all effects are completed, the board is cleaned up. Any destroyed cards put in the discard pile, as well as any strategy cards that were played. There are reactions that occur before resolution of an action to prevent the effects, as well as reactions that occur after resolution. Stormless Fury is an example of a reaction after the resolution of an action. Each turn is broken down into 6 phases. In addition, the attack phase can be broken down into 4 more segments. I'll be describing each phase in detail, including the 4 segments of the attack phase. Here's a general outline. First up is the straightening phase. Whoever's turn it is, called the active player, straightens all cards on his side of the board unless a trait or action prevents the straightening of the card, like bamboo harvesters. In this phase, the active player addresses each of his provinces from left to right, flipping the card face up if it is face down. Any event or regions that are face up in a province as the player addresses them are immediately resolved before moving on to the next province. Event effects happen immediately, and regions attach to the province they appear in. If an event has no legal target, it is just discarded. If a region appears in a province which already has a region, the second region is discarded. Events or regions that are flipped up during any other phase would wait until that player's next event phase to resolve. Any time a province becomes empty, it is immediately filled with a face-down dynasty card. Next is the action phase. The action phase is the only time players may use limited and open abilities. The active player has the first opportunity to perform a limited or open ability or pass. After that, the other player gets an opportunity to use an open ability or pass. Players take turns until both players pass one after another, ending the action phase. In addition to limited and open actions printed on your cards, each player has access to a few actions printed in the rulebook called rulebook actions. Here are the 3 rulebook actions available to a player during the action phase. The first is the exact wording of the equip action for attaching attachments. Second is the exact wording of lobbying for the favor. The favor offers 2 immediate benefits printed on the card to the left, but may be required for actions printed on other cards. Only one player may control the favor at a time. The last is the exact wording for seppuku, a ritualistic suicide that re-honors a dishonored personality. It is mainly used against a dishonor deck. The next phase is the attack phase. During the declaration segment of the attack phase, the active player may declare an attack on another player. He becomes the attacker and the other player is the defender. Create a battlefield at each of the defender's provinces. Battlefields are locations with 2 sides, attacking and defending. 1 or more units on the same side make up an army. The next segment of the battle phase is the infantry assignment segment. The attacker simultaneously assigns any number of units, including 0, to the attacking side of each battlefield. The defender then assigns any number of his units to the defending side of each battlefield. The unit may only be assigned to one battlefield at a time. A unit led by a bowed personality may not be assigned. Any units not assigned to battlefields are considered at a location called home. For the purpose of some card effects, assigning to a battlefield is not considered moving to a battlefield. The next segment is the cavalry assignment segment. Attackers and defenders assign units in order just as they did in the infantry assignment segment. The only difference is only cavalry units may be assigned during the cavalry assignment segment. A unit is considered a cavalry unit if the personality and all followers attached to him have the cavalry keyword. This segment allows attackers with cavalry units to assign after seeing the bulk of the defender's defense, either avoiding them or assigning more strategically. Defenders still assign second in this segment, so they will have a chance to defend against attacking cavalry if they have cavalry of their own. After all assigning is completed, exactly 1 battle is fought at each province's battlefield, even if there are no units there. These battles are resolved one at a time, and the attacker chooses what order to resolve the battles in. It is possible that a unit may be moved into a battlefield that has already been resolved. Despite this, there is no further opportunity for a battle at that battlefield. There are a small number of cards like Ambush that might create a battlefield outside of the attack phase. These battles follow the same rules as battles during the attack phase. Every battle can be broken into two more segments, Combat Segment and Resolution Segment. When a battlefield is selected, it is called engaging at that battlefield. This term is important to some reactions. A combat segment is similar to the action phase of a turn. Each player takes turns taking battle actions until each player passes one after another. Much like during the action phase, there are certain rulebook actions the player is allowed to announce during battle. The big difference between the combat segment and the action phase is that only certain personalities are allowed to use their printed actions, and battle strategies can only be played if certain requirements are met. Whether or not an action can be taken during battle is determined by two rules, the rule of presence and the rule of location. The rule of presence says, to legally take any battle action, you must control one or more units at the current battlefield. The rule of location says, to legally take a battle action from a card in a unit or to legally perform a battle action, the performing card must be at the current battlefield. To be legally targeted by a battle action, any cards in a unit must be at the current battlefield. The exception to the rule of presence and location is this. Battle actions that move a unit to the current battlefield or bring a personality into play there are legal to take if the rule of location and presence would be satisfied with the unit or personality there. The second action on Broken Alliance, for example. These are the combat segment rulebook actions. Tactical Battle. Any number of times per turn, discard a card and choose a performing tactician personality. Give him a force bonus equal to the focus value of the discarded card. Battle. Any number of times per turn, choose a performing unbowed opposed Sugenja and target a spell in your hand. Attach it to him paying all costs. You may take an additional action to use a battle ability on that spell. Favor Political Battle. Discard the Imperial Favor and target an attacking enemy personality. Move him home. Reaction. After engaging, once per battle, if you are the attacker and your current army has more naval cards than the side opposing it, choose a performing naval personality. You have the first opportunity to take a battle action, which he must perform. The resolution segment is where you determine the outcome of the battle. The attacker and defender total their army's force at the battlefield. An army's force is the total force of all unbowed personalities and followers. Bowed items still modify the force of the personality they are attached to. Whichever side has greater force destroys every card in the opposing army and gains 2 honor for each card destroyed. If the attacker wins and his army has more force than the defending army plus the province strength of the battlefield's province, the attacker also destroys the province. Discard any cards and regions in the province. That player has 1 less province for the rest of the game. If both sides have equal force, it is a tie. If it is a tie and there is at least 1 card on both sides of the battlefield, both armies are destroyed and each player gains 1 honor for each card destroyed in the opposing army. If it is tied at 0 and only one or neither side has a card in it, there is no outcome. After the outcome of a battle is decided, all attacking units to the battlefield bow, then return home. This is not considered movement. Defending units stay at the battlefield and return home only at the end of the attack phase. They do not bow. Once the last battle has ended, the attack phase ends. Any units still at battlefields bow if they are attacking and return home. The resolution segment also has 1 rulebook keyword and 1 additional rule associated with it. The no second battle rule is this. A personality who has already been in an attacking army during a battle resolution in the current attack phase will not move to a battlefield. Conquest reads like this. Reaction. After a battle resolution ends, choose a performing attacking conqueror personality at that battlefield. Straighten his unit, it will not bow from the battle resolution. During the Dynasty phase, in any order you like and as many times as possible, you can bring in face-up holdings and personalities into play from your provinces. To bring a holding into play, pay its gold cost. Holdings always into play bow. To bring personalities into play, your family honor must be equal to or higher than his honor requirement, and you must pay his gold cost. Personalities have 3 additional rules if they share your clan alignment, which you may combine with each other, discussed on the next slide. Before your Dynasty phase ends, once you have finished bringing cards into play, you may discard face-up cards from your provinces 1 by 1. Remember, any time a card leaves a province, it is immediately refilled with a face-down card. Due to the 15-minute restriction on YouTube videos, I'm going to have to put the rest in another video, so I'll see you guys in part 3.